Don in London, hello. It's August 27th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or both substance and behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, alcoholic in recovery, and behaviour. Well, what was the behaviour? All around people, places and things. Trying to be with the right people, in the right place, with the right things, doing the right things. Very trying person, trying as hard as I possibly could to fit in, and part of the fitting in process was dealing with fear, putting on a brave face, not showing weakness in any arena of my life, because that's what I was taught to do. And when alcohol came on the scene for me, very young, the feeling was wonderful. I felt much better about life once I'd taken a drink. So it changed the way I felt. An unnatural aid to conviviality, joy and happiness. And equally, when life was hard, it helped me to extremes, I guess, feeling the sad of life, those feelings which I always pushed down and away, which were not acceptable to me or other people, or at least I thought so. So I suppose half of an emotional equation, if you like. It was okay to be happy and joyous and free, but it was not okay to be sad, miserable and pissed off. So these days I've learned it's okay, so that every feeling has a purpose, and every situation will evoke feelings of one sort or another, and I really have no control over the feelings I may experience as life rolls along. It's what I do about them. It's how I respond and react to situations. So alcohol overran my life in the end. It was always a part of. My dad, a heavy drinker, and I can presume an alcoholic by the amount he consumed over the years, and how it changed him over the years as well. From well, I don't know. I never knew him without a drink inside him. So I really don't know much about his life without a drink inside him, except the last 3 months, where he stopped drinking because he was told he was going to die. And when I asked him, why have you stopped drinking, Dad? He said, I've got nothing to fear. I know what the end is and when it's coming. And that's true. He had nothing to fear, stopped drinking, stopped smoking, and thought, well, what's going to happen next? He was quite frightened about what was going to happen next, the ending. But in some ways it was a relief, but it also highlighted to him what was important and how much he loved my mother, and he wasn't able to really express that very well all his life, because to show feeling and emotion and love meant it could be taken away again. So fear of not being loved, I guess, had a lot to do with his drinking, and it was better to be isolated and alone rather than be involved and part of, to a large extent. So he had no good start in life, and I know people do the best they can even when it feels like the worst for other people, and that was often the case, not because he wished it so, but because he never learned another way to live, and so many others don't or didn't at the time. These days, sober one day at a time, I'm learning what my feelings are, so when my feelings fit what is going on, I feel a lot happier. How did I ever get to being sober? After 35 years of, I suppose, drinking to change the way I felt, fixing the way I felt. 35 years where I ended up unable to stop drinking 24/7, wake up, drink, be ill, wake up, go unconscious, wake up, all these scenarios of oblivion. That's all I wanted. And now I don't want it, one day at a time. I prefer to be alive, knowing what's going on around me, and just generally working out life as it happens. I'm just going to print something off whilst I'm speaking, because I think I have printed it off. I'm okay. Sometimes I'm not sure how these things are going to turn out. This is ad lib, so it's not about me saying this is the message of how to get sober. This is me saying there is a way to get sober and how sober life impacts on me. So part of the miracle of sobriety for me is being included in a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Good news, I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. full of unique, authentic people who speak for themselves where they will. And most people speak under the protection and trust of others in sobriety in the meetings of AA. So anonymity is sacrosanct and very, very valuable to recovery, starting the recovery path. Why? Well, we need confidentiality. We need to be able to trust that we can share the truth of who we are and where we're coming from without being judged harshly by the world. So AA affords it affords anonymity as best we can, bearing in mind that some people will always break trust or breach trusts around anonymity, not because they mean to, or some do, but because they don't know any other way to be, and they can be forgetful. So here I share in a general way how recovery helps me and others, but I am never specific about individuals and their recovery. It would not help, but I can say where I've been and what I've done and what I've heard and how it helps me, but I cannot share about personalities, and I don't want to. There's no point. How does AA help me? Well, on this card I have the AA preamble. That's the preamble shared at every meeting at the beginning, explaining what AA is there to do. So here we go. Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So there's only one requirement, a desire to stop. There are no rules, laws or regulations in AA. We learn how to work together to help each other be sober. A desire to stop is all it is. But that's everything, because it means you have freedom of choice to choose your path, unique and authentic to you. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, and that means if you've got a few pennies to spare to put in the pot, cover rent, coffee, tea, biscuits and some literature, we give a little bit, but we don't give excessively, because we don't want money to be an issue in fellowship. We just want to pay our way, so it's day by day pretty much, or just a few weeks in advance, that we keep a prudent reserve. Going on, AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, which means the fellowship is there for sobriety, but everybody in the fellowship has affiliations and beliefs and shares about them to an extent, because it's part of living life sober. So we will hear lots which is good for us, the wisdom of many, and we'll hear lots of things which are not good for us, which are just opinion and belief of others which we don't share. But we respect diversity, meaning we don't judge people for their lifestyle. Once they're sober, that's their business, but we're very interested in how they remain sober. That's the key. Wisdom from others. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So part of what I do here is really sharing a message of hope on a daily basis, that life can work sober. It doesn't mean life is going to be wonderful all the time, because that would be some sort of utopia. And my only conclusion in my very early life was that utopia, if it's always the same, could be pretty boring. But the good news about life sober is it's not boring at all, unless you're agitated and cannot stay in the moment. If you cannot live in the moment, life can feel very boring, because it's the product of our thinking, our intellect, that we want it better than it is. So we can strive for sobriety, and then we have to cope with real life, which is extraordinary, ordinary living. Being in the moment of now, where feelings fit what's going on, tells us, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? What's going on? How do I fit in? Am I included? Do I know how to love? Be loved back and useful? All those things come to mind. So AA is teaching me a lot every single day I'm alive, and sometimes it's repetitive because it needs to be repetitive. How else do we get into a state of understanding life in the moment of now? Talk to anyone who has tried meditation, prayer, anything to do with getting into good habits and giving up old habits which are bad for us. Well, the bad habit, once you've let go of it, means that you have good habits, which often means we have to take account of who we are and where we are and how we impact on the rest of the world and how the world is impacting on us. And it's the impact on our feelings which is so important to understand what is going on. If we feel right, we think right. Feeling right doesn't mean it's happy. It can mean sad as well, because life is full of different experiences. Anyway, on a daily basis, this daily reflections book from AA helps me immensely, because it covers the 12 steps of the program, 12 principles of living. Sounds a lot, but it's not, once you get to know what they are. And then there are 12 traditions, which is about keeping fellowship safe in unity, service and recovery. So 12 steps and 12 traditions covered in that book over a year, 365 days, 24 principles, if you like, which are timeless. Timeless in as much as they always work whatever is going on. That's what timeless means in terms of principles. If the principles hold good in any situation and they are timeless, then they're probably worthwhile knowing about and putting into practice. Well, they are for me anyway, and I can't refute one over the other. I may interpret them differently to people around me, and that's just the way we do it. We find our path in sobriety. So, daily reflections from that book I just mentioned for the 27th of August is about centering our thoughts. And it's going back a long way in history. AA was about in World War II. When World War II broke out, our AA dependence on a higher power had its first major test. And much is made of higher power and fellowship. Higher power for me is truth, love and wisdom, which comes to be understandable as time goes by without a drink inside me. Truth of life, not my opinion or belief about it, so the absolute truth, how to love people and be loved back, and wisdom often coming from others, which informs me and improves my wisdom of what might work today. So the higher power for me is truth, love and wisdom, and some call that God, and some call God and have very different understandings about what God is in their lives. So in the end, the higher power is what you choose it to be, or understand it to be, or whether you understand God, you have a God of your understanding, or just simply have a higher power. Good conscience is in our heads. There is a good conscience in our heads which informs us of what we may do well, and a bad conscience is when we've done something bad, which we know is bad, and we need to deal with, normally by making amends or restitution. Rather than ignoring it, it's sending us mad, and we start drinking again. Yes, so when World War II broke out, our AA dependence on a higher power had its first major test. AAs entered the services and were scattered all over the world. Would they be able to take the discipline, stand up under fire, and endure? That was from As Bill Sees It, Bill Wilson, one of the co-founders. I will center my thoughts on a higher power. I will surrender to all this power within me. I will surrender all to this power within me. So I surrender to good conscience on a daily basis, which may or may not be part of God, or a connection to God. I will become a soldier for this power, feeling the might of the spiritual army as it exists in my life today. I will allow a wave of spiritual union to connect me through my gratitude, obedience and discipline to this higher power. Let me allow this power to lead me through the orders of the day. May the steps I take today strengthen my words and deeds. May I know that the message I carry is mine to share, given freely by this power greater than myself. And I think what they found was that many people who maintained their sobriety as recovering alcoholics in the services acquitted themselves as they were asked, and they answered. It's not a thing about war per se. It doesn't mean we are there to be the minions of others unless we believe it to be right. That's another part of life. But even under the most extreme circumstances, sobriety can be maintained. And I know this because many scrapes in sobriety happen, where we can become very angry, insane in our feelings about what we want to do and how we want to do it in a punishing way. And the downside is, if we follow that path and become omnipotent, thinking we know better than another person and going to extremes, we find ourselves on very dangerous ground, especially in fellowship, where people need to make up their minds and have free choices on a daily basis. And one of the things about recovery is passion comes back. Passion for beliefs, passion for life, passion in love, and compassion too. Compassion for those people around us who are where they are and need help. So I was reflecting this morning, and then a couple of reflections from other years. 3 meetings in 2 days. One felt good and I was connected. The second felt disagreeable. The second, a disagreeable chap wanted the window open, which let in noise, and still good for me. In other words, people have their way of starting a meeting, and some people like the windows open to let in fresh air in a stuffy old room in a church, which is where we were. But then, as time goes by and it's now fresh air in the room, they still want the windows open because they've opened them. But people are drowned out by the sound of traffic going by. So what's right and wrong? Well, it didn't make any difference to me. I just about heard what was going on. But it was a quirky meeting all the same. But, I don't need to upset another person just because they want the window open. Maybe that's tolerance and love, I don't know. So 2 contrasting meetings where one I felt good and connected, and that was I'm not going to mention the names of where they were, that would be unfair. The third, full of friends and courage to change. But there is a conclusion out of these 3 meetings. Some need medication for their ailments of the mind, and others need none. And one of the great contentious things that can happen to an individual in sobriety is once we are sober, other issues emerge to do with our mental health. And mental health will improve if we stop self-medicating and try and find out what's really going on for us. It does not mean we're going to get a clean bill of mental health, because we are dealing with a malady which won't go away. And part of the malady is a preponderance to think we're right once we're sober, and that's not necessarily the case. So just because you're sober doesn't mean you're right. And just because you're sober doesn't mean all your mental health problems have gone away. And there can be extreme examples where people talk about, well, I need medication because, but maybe they're not ill. Or some people who say, I don't need medication because I'm sober, and they are obviously not so good in terms of mental health issues. So AA is non-professional. It's about sobriety. And when we have a professional need to identify what other health issues we have of a physical or emotional nature, it's better to get a checkup than prevail or try and prevail with the 12 steps on their own. As a person cannot grow back a limb, although they may be fitted with a bionic one these days, truly bionic in scientific terms, that is now a reality. Some parts of our mental health may never have been good, and we self-medicated because that took away the pain of trying to understand life when it was completely not understandable. So when a person says out loud, I threw down my crutches and I could walk, and my mental health became absolutely perfect as a result of these steps, I have to be careful not to criticise them and not to impede their progress. At the same time, if somebody had said throw down your crutches, and later on in sobriety when I got type 1 diabetes from a virus, if they said, oh, you can cure yourself by diet, well, if you don't make insulin as one is supposed to, you can't do much about it, because you need insulin to break down food. That's how we get our energy. Similarly, if a person has an extreme mental health issue, or even just a mental health issue, there are professional ways to deal with it, which improve sobriety on a daily basis. So my way of looking at it is this: sobriety affords a level ground, or a level playing field, to find out what else is going on. And I was not surprised to find that I was prone to, well, no, I have clinical depression, and with the aid of a light dose of a particular medication, I'm on a level playing field with my colleagues and my fellows in AA. Without it, I live in depression in the deep, dark, desolate places, and don't emerge on my own for any length of time. So I prefer a balanced view, which is fellowship for sober, and then the rest, which requires professional judgment and help, go with it. Why not? At the same time, when a person professes, I put down my pills and I'm now all right, and they're not all right, I wish they would be careful, because it gives a powerful message of don't take any notice of that person for any reason whatsoever. So they undermine not only their own recovery, but the way other people see their recovery. Non-professional sober works, but then professional help for those items or conditions which exist, because it's no good shouting from the rooftops, you don't need medication anymore, or you do need medication. It needs to be handled by professionals, and if people choose not to take professional advice and have mental health issues which need help, that is their business. But it's not good to hear people say, I'm perfectly alright and there's nothing wrong with me, when there patently is. It undermines people's understanding of fellowship and what it's there to do and what it can do. It can help us with our daily living, vastly improve it in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, but it will not cure other ailments. And as many can attest, sobriety offers powerful healing, emotional and physical, living in the moment where feelings fit reality, the spiritual connection is to now. So if my feelings fit what is going on, happy, sad, joyous, loving, hateful, or whatever it is, where feelings fit what is going on, that's my spiritual living in the moment. Everything is spiritual, even the worst experience is spiritual. Fellowship helps us to be sober, then mental health is improved in time, and sanity returns on a daily basis. AA is not a cure for other mental health conditions, which emerge as self-medication with alcohol ceases. Great harm can ensue when non-professionals discount and shun professional help and advise against it. So an over-reliance on God solving all our problems, or please God help me with my mental health issues, or please God let my sponsor be right that my mental health issues will disappear once I'm sober, is not going to be helpful. We are non-professional, so if there is an emerging mental health issue and you see it and you're not in denial, maybe a bit of help might be required. And I am careful on this, because if I didn't take my medications, if I didn't take my insulin, if I didn't deal with the neuropathy, if I didn't deal with the clinical depression, or get the right help and the right advice about it, and don't forget science is improving all the time, not to make us 100% fit, but help us deal with the conditions we have, then it would be foolish of me to ignore them. Indeed, unfortunately, I had a GP who said everything I had was psychosomatic, so I suffered from malnutrition for a year because of it. I don't blame them. They thought I was an alcoholic with a mental health issue. That is delusion. Well, yeah, when you're drinking, delusion is there, but when you're not drinking, I wish that people would take notice when we go to the doctors and say, we're not quite right, can you help me, or do I need a specialist? And the answer being no, it's all in your head, is not very good. So there is big learning all round. So if we go to a general practitioner, they can help us generally. But when it comes to mental health, probably a good idea to get a mental health expert to have a look at us. I hope I'm not being too dogmatic, but it's just the way it is today. And actually I feel good this morning. The sun keeps coming out. Yesterday was miserable. Anyway, some of my other thoughts. 2008 to 2010. Centre my thoughts, or in other words, grounding myself. How do we close down at the end of one day and start afresh? Every day we are open to every influence, good and bad, and we have choices. That's it, we have freedom of choice sober. As life is. Doesn't mean we can override everything and say, I'm free now, so bugger off. It's I'm free now to make choices based on reality. I start most mornings asking myself, how am I feeling, why, and what can I do? If I know my mood, know why I feel good, bad or indifferent, I have choices to actions to improve my outlook. So I have choices to actions which can improve my outlook. So this morning I feel pretty good, even though last night and other times this week I've heard the concern. What gives me concern, that is, people not taking medical advice when it's obvious they could do with it. As a non-professional, you can still see people who need a bit of help. And after all, science is part of nature and providence. And if nature and providence and the universe is under the guide or help of a higher power, then so are scientists and doctors. You may not think so on some occasions, but science is moving along. We're cracking the code of life. Yeah, doesn't mean it's going to be any easier, because then we have to see what we're going to do about it. No point in living longer and for longer and longer if it's going to be hell. We still have to deal with ourselves as humanity. Usually my reflex on waking, step 1, powerless over people, places and things. At the same time I have choices. And step 2, beware of the madness of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different to happen. Step 3, can do, cannot do, and the wisdom to know the difference. In other words, let go and let good conscience and God, if that's your understanding, help you. Let go my self-will and let in help and support from those around me. Truth, love and wisdom of others will help my perspective today. And going on, pray and meditate to improve my attitude and behaviour. I am an atheist, agnostic and believer in the God of my understanding. So, depending on what's going on, atheist, agnostic or believer can be the case. It's not that I'm trying to be disloyal, I'm just saying how it is for me. So I'm not disloyal to myself or anything that might be considered a higher power. I'm still learning and understanding, but I will never be able to define God. Although these elements seem to be true, God is truth, love and wisdom in the ever-present moment of now. So, if anything, God is working in the moment, nowhere else. This is where change happens. And courage to change is helped by sobriety. Where do I learn truth? Most often truth learned from others, and not from my opinions or beliefs. How do I learn to love? From everyone I encounter, and from everything I've learned on my life journey. Where does wisdom manifest? From the experience learned from others and my life journey. So, wisdom of others and my own wisdom. Some of it, the wisdom of not doing the same old crap all over again. And don't misunderstand other people having the same outlook as me. Prayer and meditation is about faith in what we come to understand about life as it is. Prayer, the serenity prayer for acceptance of reality. Prayers as they fit to good conscience. Meditation, listening to the answers each day and understanding what works. Meditation is the silence I need to hear the inner voice. So, if I can have a head which is calm and relaxed, and I can listen to the good conscience of me and others, then meditation in the moment of now is probably working for me. I need to hear the inner voice, informed by all my senses and others I encounter. God lives in the moment of now, whatever you perceive him, she or it to be. So that's me today. I didn't do a video yesterday. I had to go get my choppers looked at, my teeth, and have the bones x-rayed. Type 1 diabetes impacts and speeds up some of the decaying of life processes. So bone density and loose gnashes can happen. But they're alright this morning. Sorry about that. That's just me being a bit silly. But they do look quite clean, actually. I'm leaving this in just because I'm pleased my teeth have been cleaned. It makes me feel more healthy for some reason, and I get a childish delight having my teeth cleaned, because no matter what I do with a brush or an electric toothbrush, I can't get it as good as the dentist can get it. So all power to my dentist, and he's known me all the way through recovery. The irony was, when I had a tooth out, my only one in 55 years, he took it out, and that's what caused the virus which caused the diabetes. And he said, yes, this has happened to me before. And he said, it's really unfortunate because statistically it should never happen to me, or maybe 1 in a million times, but it's happened to him twice. So I think, the odds are good now that he's had his fair share of bad luck. I don't regard type 1 diabetes as bad luck. I'm actually alive to experience it, and also to experience improved outlooks because of the 12-step program, the fellowship, and also professional help to do with clinical depression. So it's a combination of everything, and the wisdom which comes from other people. The can do and can't do. I can change my attitude and behaviour. I can't change your attitude and behaviour. That's what the Serenity Prayer teaches me on a daily basis, and the wisdom of the circumstances around that. So I can change my own attitude and behaviour with more wisdom, more truth, more love, more wisdom, all of it. It comes on a daily basis. We're rolling along a day at a time. But I don't want to change you, your attitudes or behaviour to things which are harmful to you. I would just encourage you, if you have a drink problem, to try fellowship out, take what works from it, and don't take things away from it which will just make you angry, sad and resentful. Because don't forget, human beings in recovery are like human beings everywhere else. Some have good ideas and some have appalling ideas. And some people are over-reliant or codependent on something they don't understand. If anything, God works with us, not over us. That's how it works. Because if we are waiting for a higher power to cure us, well, what do I know? I'm going to shut up on that topic. I'm just happy I've got clean teeth today, and I'm also very keen. Oral hygiene stops all sorts of other conditions happening as well, to do with very, very difficult physical ailments. So look after your teeth if you've still got them, or if you've got dentures, make sure they're clean. Your partner will appreciate it, whoever they may be. Meanwhile, the Serenity Prayer, which I share at the end of these videos, it's a Saturday morning, so a bit of joviality, and it's just the way I am today. Serenity Prayer, dead serious though, around can do, can't do. So to God, or in good conscience, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, in the moment, and just for today.